Hey dudes, I'm Hilah, and today on Hilah Cooking I'm making Chinese egg rolls, which might more appropriately be called Chinese American egg rolls because they're a complete bastardization of original Chinese spring rolls, I'm sure. But anyway, these are great for snacks, appetizers, or even Easter, because they're called egg rolls, get it? That'll really throw your guests for a loop. They'll be like, what the f is Chinese food doing here with the ham? Okay, the first thing we're gonna do is make our filling. So these have a pre-cooked filling that you will cook it and then cool it before we fill the egg rolls. I'm gonna add a little bit of oil to my pan and start sauteing. I've got some very finely minced celery and onion here. So while that's going, I've got also here about a half a pound of ground pork. You can use ground turkey. You could leave out the meat completely and add some more vegetables if you want to also. I'm gonna add to this bowl, I've got some brown sugar, some cornstarch, and some minced garlic and ginger. So when you add cornstarch to ground meat like this, it kind of helps lock in the moisture so the meat doesn't dry out, and it helps it sort of bind together. So it's serving two purposes. I'm just gonna mix this in with the ground meat here. Also gonna add about a tablespoon of soy sauce to this and some pepper. I'm gonna use white pepper, but you can use black pepper or red pepper if you want them a little bit spicier, and a little bit of salt also. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt to these vegetables too to draw some of that moisture out, to sweat them a little bit. So they'll soften up a little quicker. And then just get our meat mixed up and add that to the skillet also. And then we just want to stir it around, break the meat up as much as you can, and eventually it'll sort of come into really tiny little crumbles. So keep an eye on that and have a brew while you're waiting, because nothing goes with egg rolls like beer, right? You could also have water, but hey look, Tecate Light. I'm saving calories on my beer so that I can have more fried egg rolls later. Beautiful. Okay, just a few minutes later, it looks like this. I'm gonna turn the heat off, and you just wanna make sure that any big chunks of meat are sort of broken up. So you want really a very fine filling for these egg rolls. Then I'm going to transfer it to a plate. You could use a baking sheet or something. We just want to spread it out so that it cools off faster. If there's any oil left in the bottom of your pan, you can try to like keep that behind, because we'll use that to cook the cabbage also. Okay, we'll set that aside. And then back in the same skillet, I'm going to add a tiny bit more oil. And we'll add the cabbage. So this is shredded Napa cabbage. I just sliced it really finely. You can use a regular old green cabbage too, and that'll give you more sort of texture inside your egg roll, and that's more common in restaurants, but I don't know. I had Napa cabbage, so I'm using Napa cabbage. Either one's fine. You can also add like bean sprouts and things like that. So we're just gonna saute this until the cabbage is wilted. It shouldn't take very long at all. Okay, so cabbage getting nice and wilted. We don't want to get it too soft because you want to keep a little bit of texture, and it'll still continue to cook even after you've turned the heat off. So this looks pretty good. The leafy parts are nice and soft, but the stemmy parts are still a little crispy. So I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to add some water chestnuts, and these is just like a can of water chestnuts that I drained and minced finely. And then I'm also going to add some mushrooms, and these are dried shiitake mushrooms that I've just had soaking in water for about an hour. Wood ear mushrooms are like those black ones that are really firm, are also commonly used in egg rolls. These are a little bit easier to find usually, so squeeze the water out. And then I'm just gonna mince up these mushrooms too. And then finally to this, I'm gonna add a tablespoon of regular all-purpose flour and mix that in. And that's just gonna help the filling stay kind of firm. As it cools, it'll thicken it up, so it'll sort of make a mass that you can form into little egg rolls. I'm gonna spread this out on top of the meat mix. And then we'll just put this whole thing in the fridge and let it get super chilled. You can make the filling a day ahead of time, even 2 days ahead of time, which is muy excelente when you've had a lot of brews. Okay, time to roll these mofos. This is just about half the mixture. It's cooled off totally. These are my egg roll wrappers. So these, you can find these in the frozen section usually of pretty much any major grocery store. And you just want to thaw them out and then keep the rest of them covered while you're rolling them so they don't dry out. It dries out pretty quickly. So there's 2 here. God damn it. They stick together. They stick together like a hand and glove. These egg roll wrappers are the best of friends. Okay, what's going on in my album, guys? Stay tuned. Stay iTuned. Just kidding. Okay, so you want to get a big spoonful, maybe like a 1/4 cup or so of your mixture, and put it pretty much right in the center. Maybe a little bit below the center, but pretty much just right on, bros. And then you roll the bottom up, and what I like to do is kind of take it over and then pull it back. Did you see how I did that? Did you see how I did that? So that it gets a nice little tight log. Fold this side over, fold this side over, and then in this little bowl I've got just a mixture of plain flour and water. About equal parts, maybe a little bit more water. It's not important, really. Just use your finger to go. I like to sort of get these sides here, like the envelope sides, and then the little point also. This is gonna kind of glue it together. And then just roll it over like that. Just like that. Make sure that you have enough on that little tippy tip. There we go. So then we're gonna set this aside, seam side down on a plate. And you can make these, you can make them in like, let them sit for maybe like 10 or 15 minutes tops. But eventually and pretty quickly, the filling, the liquid in the filling and the oil in the filling is gonna kind of soak through the wrapper. So you can't really make them like really ahead of time. But like I said, you can make the filling ahead of time and then just roll up a few, and then as you're frying the first batch, you or someone else, ideally, you have a little helper, a little kitchen elf, will be rolling the next batch. So it's kind of a fun thing to do if you have like friends that like to cook, to have them over and let's all make egg rolls together. You can make some different fillings. You could put shrimp in them, or you could make vegetarian ones. You could put carrots in them. You could put whatever in them. Good. So I'm going to roll up about 6 of these while I start heating up my oil. I've got some peanut oil in the skillet, just 3/4 of an inch or so, to about 365 degrees Fahrenheit. Catch you on the flip side. Wait, there we go. Cowabunga. Once your oil's around 365, you want to carefully fry your egg rolls in small batches for 1 to 2 minutes on each side until golden brown. Now we're talking. Be careful not to fry too many at once because the temperature will drop and you'll end up with greasy egg rolls, and you'll also run the risk of overflowing your oil. Drain your egg rolls, and then I like to put them in a bowl that's lined with a paper towel, sort of upright, so that the excess oil can drip off, and they actually stay pretty warm this way. Egg rolls are done. What time is it? It's egg roll time. What time is it? It's time for egg rolls. Those don't rhyme. So I've got here some Oriental hot mustard powder. You can find this in spice areas. Daisy, quit being such a bitch. And you just mix up the powder with water to the desired consistency. I like mine a little bit thin so that it's good for dipping. And then I've also got some sweet chili sauce. So if you like this egg roll recipe, also check out my chimichangas for another delicious fried treat with a Mexican twist. And I also did a fresh spring rolls recipe a couple years ago that aren't fried, and they're way healthier and almost as delicious. With that said, let's give this a taste. I like this hot mustard. It's gonna clear out my allergies. It's a fine, crunchy egg roll. There you go. I hope you like this egg roll recipe. I hope you give it a shot. If you want printable recipes, they're always available at hilahcooking.com. And that's also the best place to reach me if you have an important question about a recipe, because I will be sure to see those questions. And visit me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm all over the place, y'all. I own the internet. I'm inside the internet. Bye. Baby, do you want some egg roll? Do you like crunchies? Good catch, girl. Daisy's really good at catching stuff. Oh, you're so smart and clever. I love you. It's probably enough fried things.